Pase. Voy a dar una introducción. Hola, muy buenas tardes, amigos de Wisconsin Contigo. Nos encontramos en la Biblioteca Pública de Beloit. El día de hoy nos estamos reuniendo con el representante del estado, Clinton Anderson, y con el senador Mark Spreitzer. El día de hoy ellos quieren escuchar sus inquietudes, sus necesidades aquí en el área en el condado de Rock y en todo el área sur de Wisconsin, y el senador pues puede ayudarnos para todo el estado de Wisconsin. Así es que les pedimos que compartan esta publicación para que llegue a más personas, y si tienen alguna pregunta y duda pueden hacerlo en los comentarios y haremos llegar sus dudas a al representante y al senador. Gracias.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. My name is Clinton Anderson. I represent the 45th Assembly District, and most of it's Beloit, but it goes into a little bit of Greene County and western Rock as well.
And I'm State Senator Mark Spreitzer. I live here in Beloit as well and represent the same areas that Clinton does, as well as Janesville, Stoughton, Oregon, and some of the surrounding communities north of here.
Yo voy a traducir, voy a tratar de traducir. Si necesitan clarificación, denme tiempo, y no soy profesional, pero vamos a hacerlo. El representante Clinton Anderson, él representa el Distrito 45 del área, lo que es Beloit y una parte del condado de Greene. El senador Spreitzer, él representa más o menos la misma área.
Y todo el estado.
Y todo el estado. Así es.
So today we just really want to hear from all of you and build a relationship with the community and take your concerns up to Madison. So this is less about us talking to you and you talking to us today. So feel free to ask questions, share comments, share concerns, and we'd love to take them up with us to the Capitol.
Como les dije, esta es una plática casual y lo que ellos quieren es tener una plática, escucharnos y llevar nuestras inquietudes al Capitolio en Madison.
Yeah. So first of all, I've always been really frank with you, Clint. We've always had a conversation where I tell you how I feel and how I see things, and you've always been open to that, so I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here because the Hispanic community, we don't get this, maybe very little bit, but I would say even maybe not at all sometimes. The last race, I was hoping that I would have seen more community engagement with the Hispanic community, and I saw very little of that. So this kind of meeting brings everybody back to the table to be able to kind of restart everything. I think, so my name is David Ramirez. I'm a small business owner. I've been in Beloit since '98. I call myself a Beloitian. I am from Beloit. I do a lot of community service. I work part-time with the Wisconsin Latino Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board for an Hispanic called Hispanos Unidos Rompiendo Fronteras. We have two faces of the organization. One is to be able to promote the culture and the heritage, but the second part of it is to be able to give the community more opportunity, to be able to give them more opportunity to be able to do more with themselves. So I think that this kind of conversation can go into a lot of different topics. I have a meeting that was scheduled for today at 6:30, and there's some Hispanic people that want to start up a business. So like these are the people that are coming not just into town to live, but they're also building the economy and like the development and all that, the economy in the city. I think that these are people that we should be able to pay a little bit more attention to. People in the community that just have something to say. We're 34% of the district in Beloit, somos hispanos. 34% de la gente en el sistema escolar de Beloit es latino y hispano. There's a lot of different reasons why we should be here. It's sad to see sometimes that even when we get this type of opportunity, sometimes we don't even show up for ourselves. So that's the other side to it. That's more on our side, los que estamos sentados acá. A veces las conversaciones estas no nos la dan. Y cuando nos la dan, nosotros no venimos a la junta. Cuando regresamos a la casa, no hablamos con la gente de la casa y la familia y no tenemos esa clase de conversación entre nosotros mismos. So esta clase Platica para mí es bien importante por esa razón también.
Yeah, I appreciate that. A lot of good points. And we want to have this continue. We don't want this to be a one-time thing that we never come back and we don't do this again for 2 years. I want us to make this a periodic thing. And also, we'll get to this part too. We have contact info. Feel free to take it and reach out to us. We want to hear from you beyond just tonight.
Thank you for sharing your comments, and I agree with everything Clinton said. Want to continue to connect, and if there are ways that we can be helpful, as folks are, whether it's navigating, business permitting or anything else, we want to do that.
I know one of the questions that the people that were coming at 6:30, one of the things was, why does Rock County ask for more requirements than other counties? They go fill out an application for a permit to be able to get into the farmer's market early in the morning, to be able to be in the event at a fair, and the requirements are different from county to county. And sometimes those type of requirements don't let the person really, like, we have a thing in our community where we start and then something gets in front of us and it's like, oh man, all right, now I got to do all this. And sometimes we don't have the help for that type of stuff. So like just having somebody to be able to say, you know what, let's look into the counties and see what the requirement difference is and why is that. And we have a lot of business people, we're entrepreneurs in our community. Somos gente emprendedora, hacemos negocios, damos trabajo. Like we give jobs once we have a business. The business is going to create so many other things to life. So a lot of those things we don't talk about when, so maybe, I don't know, like having somebody, do you guys plan on anything like that, any kind of research like that?
Well, some of that's based on that local community, so we don't want to take away their authority to do what's right. But if there's any roadblocks that you're facing, you can always call us and we can help navigate it or try to make it as easy as possible, because every place has got a unique need or different requirements, but we want to be able to be helpful. So if there's a roadblock or trying to figure out where to go next, sometimes we know the elected officials or the staff people to maybe get that thing over the finish line or get you some answers that maybe you're not getting.
Yeah, there's so many different layers of government with different elected officials. So maybe it's a city issue or a county issue. But if you come to us and it's not an issue we deal with at the state, we can still get you to the right person who's elected to represent you at the level of government that is making that decision and help to make that connection. So feel free to reach out to us, and if it's not us, we'll get you in touch with who it is.
Thank you.
I know you had a real problem messaging me, so keep doing that.
So, no sé si todos lo entendieron, pero dice David que hay veces que la gente quiere empezar un negocio y tiene que sacar permisos para algunos eventos como el Farmers Market o eventos así, tienen que sacar permisos, y en cada condado, en cada condado tienen diferentes requisitos, y es lo que les pregunta los representantes, el representante y el senador. Nos explican que pues hay diferentes líneas de representantes y de mucha gente envuelta que por supuesto no quieren pasarse y dar un permiso sin que la persona que esté encargada lo dé propiamente. Entonces, ellos dicen que si hay algún problema, que si tienen alguna pregunta, alguna inquietud, pueden contactarlos a ellos, y aquí está su información, el email de ellos, para que ellos les den den la persona indicada para ayudarles, o les pueden dar la respuesta.
Eso también es un problema. Mucha gente no tiene una ID, una licencia. Ese es el mayor problema que tenemos.
Ese es otro tema. So another thing that's being spoken about in the Hispanic Latino, and I say, yo digo hispano latino porque muchos de nosotros, ya cuando uno empieza a ver la historia de todo eso, se siente de una manera u otra de la categoría en que estamos. So I use the Hispanic Latino because depending on how you backtrack the history, it's going to go back and tell you either you're from here or from here type of thing. So that's why I would say both. One of the main things that we've been talking about too is the license, the IDs, and all of that. Minnesota just passed all that, and now they're good up there. And then not too long ago, Republicans just put in the motion to be able to have all that, where it's going to be like, no, we're not going to do it in Wisconsin. Yeah. So that's a conversation right now. It's just happening. So like we're talking about it now because it's a hot topic. So like when that comes on your guys' table, like who makes the rules for that? How does that happen? Is that a bill that has to be passed? Like, we have a thing in our community where it's a taboo to talk about a lot of political stuff too, and a lot of the things I don't really understand. I got my HSCD, so I had to do civics and all that. But like, as far as that, like the checks and balances, like I think that our community needs some type of, I don't know, like a teaching, training, formal something where we understand who does what. Because I don't think we know that either.
Yeah, and I mean, David, if there's any questions specifically about how a bill gets passed or anything about state government, you can always compile those questions. We can get you an answer back. As far as the licenses, yeah, that did get stripped out. We're both very supportive of that. And if there was a bill, we'd be all over it. It's been kind of a standstill for a long time, predating my time. Mark can probably explain more of the history of that, but we're very supportive. And I know there's at least one Republican legislator who has expressed interest in doing that. So I'm a little hopeful that we can maybe get somewhere because unfortunately you do need a Republican to kind of move things based on the government that we're in right now. But, you know, we're supportive. We hope we can get everybody else on board because it's good that people can have a license to be able to get to work and, you know, be able to use that ID. So, yeah, we hope.
How does that work though? Because it's a Republican Democrat.
Yeah.
So now what? Somebody has to put in a petition for it to become a bill, becomes a bill. Then there's a majority wins and then it gets passed on to the next table, right? Or how is that process?
So the basics for a bill moving through the process, there's a state assembly and a state senate. So he's in the state assembly, I'm in the state senate. They both have to pass a bill and agree on it. And then it goes to the governor and the governor has to sign it. I've been in the legislature for 8 years prior to this, and every 2 years we start that process over again. So I've seen these bills get introduced. I've supported them before, but they didn't pass the Assembly and the Senate. They never got to the governor because the Assembly and Senator have Republican majorities, and we're still trying to get our Republican colleagues to support this idea, and most of them don't right now. So it didn't ever get to the governor. Since Governor Evers came in, he has included driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants in his budget proposals, which is a bill that he essentially gets to initiate, but then it still has to go through the Assembly and the Senate. And so last Tuesday, as part of that process, the Republican majority stripped those parts out of it. And so as the budget is now moving through, driver's cards are not part of it. Now that that's happened, we can go ahead and still introduce a bill ourselves to keep that issue alive. But unless we can get our Republican colleagues to support it, then we're not going to be able to get that to the governor's desk. And the last time that we had driver's cards in Wisconsin was 2009, 2010, when we had Democrats in the majority. Obviously, we would both love to get in the majority, but until we can do that, we've got to try to convince our Republican colleagues to support this in order to actually pass the bill.
So with doing a petition and having enough signatures, would that just create a bill to go to Assembly and Senate, or could like enough signatures on a petition just like maybe go to the governor himself or something similar? Like, or
The petition signatures would essentially just be to try to persuade legislators to support the bill, so they don't directly move the bill along.
yeah.
But obviously showing public support across the state to legislators is important. So, you know, we're here, if we're your legislators, we support it. But if you have people who live in other districts where maybe their legislators don't support it, then absolutely emailing them or calling them or signing a petition is one of the ways that we can build support for this.
David, maybe you can help me translate this too.
Sorry, we gave you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bueno, básicamente lo que están preguntando es qué pasa con la aprobación de licencias, y es todo un proceso que no está en ellos decidir, pero nos explica que en el presupuesto que el gobernador propuso, que tiene que ser aprobado por las dos asambleas, la mayoría son republicanos y los republicanos, la mayoría no están de acuerdo con esa legislatura y la sacaron del presupuesto. So, ya no está ahí. Lo que nos dice es que lo que nosotros podemos hacer es comunicarnos con los representantes mandarles emails, mandarles cartas y decirles lo que necesitamos. Eso es lo que tenemos que hacer como comunidad.
Otra cosa de todo eso es de que para hacer que todo esto pase, se tiene que poner una petición para que la petición pase por el Senado y por el Congreso también. Esas son las dos cosas antes de llegar al gobernador. Si meten un montón de diferentes cosas en la agenda, en la petición, como lo hicieron esta vez, ellos decidieron de quitar esa parte de la petición para que sea viva. Ahorita eso llega a las manos del gobernador y el gobernador ya tiene la chance de decir sí o no a las cosas que se le dan a él. Pero porque esa parte de la conversación ya se la quitaron, ya no se puede hacer nada. Pero la otra parte de todo eso es de que ellos son parte de toda esa cosa que se mueve juntas. Ellos pueden de todos modos poner una petición de ellos diciendo nosotros creemos que esta es una buena idea, lo quitamos del BID, pero creemos que se debería de meter. Ellos son importantes porque no nomás trabajan en lo que hacen, pero también son de aquí locales. Esa es la otra diferencia de ellos también.
Pero aparte de enviar emails y hacer peticiones, ¿qué otra cosa podemos hacer? Porque eso ya lo hemos hecho desde hace muchos años.
So now that we've done this for so many years and so many times and governors and all that, for it to actually stick, is there something else? We know you guys are on board with it, all right? So obviously there's somebody that's not on board. So what is that next step? Is it something that we should approach them? Is it something that we should have signatures behind us to be able to say, look, we, the Hispanic community, you guys, I believe that you guys should listen to us on this subject because of, and then have something like a conversation with them, or what would be the next step to make it a little bit closer?
Because for too many years, we send emails and we walking around the Capitolio. We do a lot job, but nothing work. We need to know what we can do it for make this change.
Well, I will say first off, if you have a representative that is opposed, I think that's a good start because if you live in our district and you email somebody way up north, they're going to ignore that email. But if you are represented by someone who doesn't agree, having that conversation, talking to them is going to help. It's also trying to find statewide organizations that might be able to advocate on your behalf for this issue. One organization that comes up to mind that actually is, I don't know if they've changed their position, but I saw based on the last election was the Dairy Business Association. They're in favor of driver's cards. So finding those organizations that might find a benefit for this to become law too is another thing. So it's a little bit of research on everybody's end, but if you find some groups that might be aligned with you on this specific issue and having them go advocate is really helpful.
Here in Beloit, we represent most of Beloit, but then there's part of Beloit on the eastern side that has two Republican legislators. One of them, Steve Noss, who's the senator, he's been there a while, and I don't think he's going to support this ever, to be perfectly honest. But the other new representative is Ellen Schutt. She just got elected. I think it would be good to reach out and try to get a meeting like this with her. I don't know where she stands on this issue. I think it would be worth having that conversation with her.
Okay, thank you.
Sí, entendieron. La otra parte sería de encontrar las organizaciones y la gente que diga que esta es una buena idea para tratar de hacernos con ellos, juntarnos con ellos. Y luego la otra parte sería de encontrar los representantes de nosotros que no creen que esta es una buena idea y tener esta clase de conversación con ellos. Y eso, para mí, esa clase de conversación nos diría entonces por quién votar o quién no votar. Y esa es otra conversación que entre nosotros no tenemos, por papeles o por lo que quiera uno decir. Hay mucha gente mayor que tiene niños y juventud en la casa que ya tienen más de 18 y pueden votar. Si a lo mejor los papás no quieren ir a votar, esto le va a caer mucho a los hijos, pero también para decir que esto le va a caer a los hijos, ¿qué es lo que estamos haciendo los padres por estos hijos? Esa es otra conversación.
Mi inquietud va por varias personas que no pudieron venir y es con relación a la licencia. Vivimos en Beloit. está dividido en dos, Sao Veloy y Veloy. En Sao Veloy, tú puedes adquirir la licencia, más en Veloy no. Sao Veloy pertenece a Illinois. En mi caso, yo tuve que mudarme a Sao Veloy y solicitar un ID y lo logré y luego volví para Veloy. Y Wisconsin deja que tú compres un vehículo y lo pones a tu nombre, pero ¿cómo conduzco si no me da la licencia? Entonces, es un problema. O no aceptan que compre el vehículo o me dan la licencia porque no voy a andar sin el documento. O sea, es un poquito cuesta arriba. Entonces tuve que mudarme a Sao Veloy, esperar un año para conseguir la licencia. Ya la conseguí y volví y me mudé a Veloy. Pero es como en el mismo Veloy dos leyes diferentes.
He's talking about the struggles with the driver's license, and I see that a lot. People live in Beloit, but they go to Illinois to get a driver's license, and then they want to buy a car, but they can't get insurance, or they get it and it's very expensive, and that's just not helping our community grow.
I'd like to add to that a little bit. I'm Alex Bajas, I'm a local insurance agent. It is a big issue in terms of the driver's licenses. It makes insurance affordability very difficult. Carriers that allow it will assess additional surcharges because there's no way to validate a driver's license or driving record. So therefore, people are paying higher premiums. The other issue that you bring is that where you can get insurance, usually you barely have state minimum limits, which is also a risk to the driver because with the current cost of inflation, state minimum limits doesn't really take you anywhere. It gets you barely legal to drive, but you still can't legally drive if you don't have a driver's license. There's 19 states, I believe, right now. Like David said, Minnesota is one of them that just recently approved. There's 19 states in the country that allow this. Wisconsin is just far behind ever since the Real ID Act in 2007. That's when they took it away. It is a revenue stream for the state to be able to have this. States that do it, like Illinois, the ITV is Illinois Temporary Visitor's License, I believe is the way they call it. It's renewed every 2 years. So if I get a driver's license for 8 years, folks that do not have a social security number need to renew it every 2 years. So that's fourfold in terms of what they're paying for it. The other difficult thing is if it's the undocumented, the wages are also lower and they're already paying higher for insurance and certain other things. Not only that, if they get pulled over without a driver's license, they have those citations to take care of. And it's not, majority I would say is not like they're doing something wrong. Again, they're just trying to go to work and provide for their family. The issue that it causes, like the gentleman mentioned, is people are having to move away from Wisconsin. And that's taking away jobs from Wisconsin and revenue towards the state.
And to add also to that conversation is the fact that it's a big safety thing. Without that license and the ID, the insurance is different. Like people really like understanding the rules of the road and how they're supposed to be driving, the signs. Like once you start talking about that, it becomes a safety issue too. Like are people really understanding what they're supposed to be one way and no way? And like, does it really make sense? Like by being able to implement this and having the driver license, that's going to assure that they're taking the test and they understand the rules of the road and that type of conversation also.
We can add to that too. And since most can't have licenses, if they get in a crash and it's not even their fault, like someone just hits them, rear ends them, it's still undone because they don't have the license, so they have to pay extra more in insurance and yeah, I don't know.
I'm assuming the answer is yes, but so with that temporary license in Illinois, it's still probably significantly cheaper than the premiums for insurance if you have no license.
It is. That's what is difficult to understand because, yes, if you live in Beloit and you can't get a license because you're a resident of Wisconsin, if you did move to Illinois, now you have a driver's license and just you have a driver's license that identifies you with a valid driver's license number.
Yeah.
Now you're eligible to buy insurance just as you would in Illinois. Then
And
it's back to your driving record and if you had any past losses or not.
And the gentleman had also said something about how in Wisconsin, you can't get the license to drive the car, but you can buy the car. So why are you selling me a car that I can't even drive because I don't have a license? So like for that type of stuff, like shouldn't the policy either go one way or the other?
Están
Not
hablando de la
both, but then now the
problemática de
government
las
is creating,
licencias, cómo
ways
si
to
podemos tener
to
acceso a
rebel,
comprar
to
un
do
auto,
something different.
pero no
And
tenemos
it's
el
still along the
acceso a
lines
las
of it being
licencias
legal
y le
because I
están
can buy the car,
explicando
but at the same
por qué a,
time,
a los hispanos que no tienen licencia pagan más de aseguranzas. Alejandro Barajas, especialista en aseguranzas, les explicó al senador y al representante las dificultades que pasan los hispanos al no tener licencia.
Con licencia o sin licencia tienen que salir a trabajar, llevar a sus hijos a la escuela, al doctor. Como quiera va a seguir haciendo la gente eso, pero sería mejor si uno tuviera licencia. Sería más fácil para uno y más seguridad para uno también y para la familia.
Said the things of life, they're gonna take you to either go to work or to take the kids to school, go grocery shopping. So either way, the having to get from point A to point B is still there. That's not going away. So either way, people are gonna they're gonna choose to get behind the wheel.
I think it affects not just immigrants, it affects many other people. I think about when my daughters were babies, my husband was deployed, he was in Iraq, I didn't have a driver's license. I was home with 2 babies. I had to go grocery shopping. I had to take them to doctor's appointments. I think about him knowing that and just think about people that are going through that right now. It's one more thing they have to worry about when they're overseas and why. There's no reason for it.
Y hay algo más en lo que también los afecta a ustedes, el que las personas indocumentadas no tengan licencia, que si llegan a tener un accidente con alguien que no tiene licencia, lo más seguro es que no tiene tampoco aseguranza. Entonces, la persona a la cual le chocaron no tiene forma de cómo, tiene que irse a un juicio para poder recuperar que les paguen su pérdida, y eso a ustedes que sí tienen licencia les dificulta más, porque las personas no es que no quieran tener licencia, es que no quieran tener aseguranza, sino al no tener licencia no pueden adquirir una aseguranza o es demasiado cara. A veces pagas más por año que lo que te costó el auto.
I think that es lo que
Okay.
estaba diciendo. It's what he
What I was saying
previously
about
said.
getting a car accident without a license is still your fault, even if it wasn't your fault.
Just the difficulties of
Otra cosa.
having insurance accessible. I mean, having a driver's license also makes it where there's more insurable people on the road versus the current state where it's hard to access for a certain segment of the population just for not having a social security number.
¿Quieres decir algo?
Otra cosa es también, cuando no tienes un ID, se te hace difícil hasta alquilar una vivienda o un apartamento. No tienes la opción, no calificas para las exigencias del alquiler. Entonces, tiene que ser vía una persona que te haga el favor o que tiene un familiar que es un latino y que él te va a dejar sin llenar esos requisitos. Pero en base a eso, hay un sinnúmero de beneficios que pierdes y que no te dan. Es así, o lo coges o no lo coges. Si se daña la nevera, tú la pagas. Y no es así. Entonces, todo eso, por no estar con esos beneficios del ID, de esto, viene en detrimento o en mal para el que está en esa situación.
So you were saying that another thing that it affects is that a lot of places when you go rent, right now, just to find a place to go try to stay, you gotta fill out an application and do all the extra stuff. And because the rent prices are so high, like they're doing things so different right now. And one of the things that a lot of landlords are sticking to is asking for that ID. So now without that ID, can the people, like their chances of being homeless just increase. So now that goes into a whole different topic of conversation with the government of the homeless population. Right now, 67% of Beloit's homeless have 2 jobs. So like, it's crazy, and once you take the ID out of the conversation, like what's their next step to be able to get somewhere to stay? They gotta either know somebody that has a place to rent, or they're gonna go to a landlord where if something breaks, well, you don't have an ID and I did your lease this way, so now you gotta pay for that. And something needs upkeep, you know what, either fix it or you're out of here. And that's the type of thing that gives the landlords a little bit more leeway to be able to run properties a certain way also.
Then to say there's an inherent bias that comes with it, basically, property owners will know if you don't have an identification, a state identification, and you're probably undocumented, so yes, I will rent you this place, but when anything goes wrong, it's your responsibility, because you can't fight me, otherwise you don't have any.
You're out of here.
Mhm.
The lady in the back has something to say.
¿Puedes traducir?
Es tan importante un ID para todos porque no puedes comprar. La otra vez fui a la farmacia y no me quisieron vender el medicamento sin el ID. Y me fui para el siguiente Walgreens y me dijeron, no podemos vender medicamentos si no tienes un ID. Es muy importante para nosotros tener un ID. Y para todos, ¿verdad? Porque le digo, fui a la farmacia y la señora no me quiso vender el medicamento. Dice, no podemos vender el medicamento a nadie que no tenga ID. Entonces, sí, es muy importante.
Eso apenas le pasó, le empezó a pasar apenas.
Sí, hace como un mes empezó eso, en la cual
You guys know about that? Like when you go get some type of pharmaceutical type of medicine prescription, they ask for IDs.
She was denied now, prescription medicine, for not having a state ID.
She went to different pharmacies too, not just one.
And that
That's a
conversation
big
goes
issue.
into the health of the community also.
Yeah, I think we forget what we need an ID for until we don't have access to have one.
I hadn't heard that example before, so thank you. That I think we're always trying to figure out what additional arguments our colleagues who don't support this might need to hear to get them to support it. So that's really helpful.
Que ellos no habían escuchado ese argumento, pero que es muy importante, muchas gracias, porque los otros representantes y senadores que no aprueban estas leyes, posiblemente les ayude a escuchar este argumento.
sí, es muy bueno y ellos lo pueden verse en verdad y yendo a la farmacia y comprando nada más un acetaminofén o algo y no se lo venden. Tuve que dejarlo, ir a la casa y mi hermana sí tiene ID y ella vino a comprármelo. Entonces, es muy cierto y fui a la siguiente farmacia y no, solo dice que no. O sea, cualquier lugar no le venden si no tiene un ID. Ni devolver algo ni nada. Si no tiene.
She had to have her sister buy it for her, because she does have an ID.
I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Y otra
Siento
cosa también puedo decir algo más.
Claro.
No es eso, pero es también cuando uno quiere conseguir trabajo. ¿Ve? Es muy difícil porque uno pues que está aquí quiere trabajar, vea, y salir adelante. Pero sin un ID es muy difícil. Usted va y no lo contratan si no tiene un ID o si no tiene un seguro social. No le dan un trabajo ni de mesera ni de nada. Porque si no tiene un ID o un seguro social, nadie lo contrata. Y después del coronavirus se volvió muchísimo más difícil conseguir un trabajo sin ID o seguro social.
Yeah. She's saying that they ask for an ID to get a job, and of course a social security number, but any job. I mean, you used to be able to, find job as a server, even without the social security, but now they will not hire you if you don't have an ID.
And I'd like to add to that. Without an ID, not only can you just not get a job, the jobs that you will be able to get tend to be more sketchy jobs that don't treat you right, and you can even fight back because you face fear of getting fired, or maybe the employer goes farther, deportation, and it's really hard to find a good workplace as a Hispanic without fear of being fired. I remember my parents, they were recently, their job had a little scandal because the executives of the factory, they were selling social securities to illegal immigrants to keep them to work there, and they would treat them like bad. They would like constantly have them working. And once someone finally found out, every like Hispanic was getting fired off the factory, so no one actually wants to speak up when like stuff like this happens, because you know they need the money.
Mm-hmm. I think we both know that we need green cards and a path to citizenship for undocumented people. And unfortunately, the state has no control over that. So IDs and driver's licenses are the one thing we do have control over that could make it a little easier. In-state tuition at our university and technical college system would make it a little easier. So we're fighting for those things. But you know, everything that you're mentioning, I mean, we need to give people legal status so that they can protect their rights.
Yeah.
So, lo que está diciendo es que las green cards y los números de seguro social, todo eso está fuera de sus manos. Eso ya es el gobierno federal quien se encarga. Pero lo que ellos sí pueden hacer o dar su opinión y tratar de conseguir las licencias.
Voy a hacer una anécdota. Voy a hacer. Lo del ID en Wisconsin es que no hay ID para nadie en ningún lugar. Y ninguna institución acepta un ID. Yo soy de República Dominicana. La embajada de mi país hace un ID de República Dominicana con mi dirección. Yo lo muestro en el banco, no me lo aceptan. Yo lo muestro en cualquier lugar y me dicen, eso no es válido. Más es un ID de acá, de la embajada de República Dominicana en Estados Unidos, pero no tiene ninguna validez. Ando con él. Lo muestro y lo que se burlan, porque no, eso no funciona. Fui con lo que le dije de la licencia que saqué en Sao Paulo. Para sacar una cuenta debo mostrar 2 ID. Muestro la licencia y muestro el ID que me dio la embajada. Que me falta un ID. Digo yo, este es un ID. No me lo aceptan. O sea, es difícil también.
He says that he's from the Dominican Republic and he also has an embassy ID. But here in the United States, he tries to use that embassy ID as a second ID, and he still can't use it as a second ID. So there's another thing right there, it's ID related, and I don't know if the embassy is more of a federal type of thing or how that works, but it's an ID with his address of where he stays, and it's through his actual embassy. So why something like that wouldn't work as a second ID?
I mean, the Mexican embassy has the same thing, la consular, right? But yeah, some places will take it, some won't. Yeah. Is that something that?
Just as state on the Wisconsin as a state type of thing?
I mean, I guess it's acceptable IDs, that can be a conversation.
We could probably require that certain kinds of businesses in Wisconsin accept certain kinds of ID, you know, so that's something we could
Like
look
a
into.
pharmacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
Something, yeah, something like that.
Without the ID, the conversation just went to the government's telling me I can't drive, I can't go get a job, I can't, it's gonna be harder for me to go live somewhere, and my health is gonna be affected because I need something and I can't go to the pharmacy with it. So like overall quality of life, like we just went down the drain. And it's a whole community of us.
We're basically limiting a whole population of people, no matter how good you do in life, you're gonna still be put down because of that. And you know, there's a couple barriers of no ID.
And these are those systematic changes that you gotta change for change to happen. Because it all involves policy and procedure at state level.
But you're not just limiting immigrant community, the parents, but their kids who are U.S. citizens. That's and they're the future of the U.S. They're the future, and they're just being limited. Estaba diciendo que no solo el no tener licencia limita a los padres, limita a toda la familia, hasta los niños que son ciudadanos, limita al futuro del país, porque ellos son el futuro.
¿Le podrías preguntar si dentro de la legislatura de Wisconsin se permite que, digamos, el condado diera una licencia solamente para los del condado de Rock?
Is there a thing as a to have the county allow driver's license just for the county? Is that something they can decide at the county level?
I don't think that is something, because I'm pretty certain that you cannot do that. I know some places have had conversations about municipal IDs, but that's not a driver's card. So you wouldn't be able to have a driver's license through a county. It'd have to be a statewide action.
But the ID piece, at least, maybe it wouldn't work to drive, but it would work like for the pharmacy. That is something that has been explored. Unfortunately, when that has been explored, I think Milwaukee or Madison maybe looked at it. Then we saw bills get introduced to try to say that you couldn't do that, and so we have to try to make sure. Unfortunately, some of our colleagues just don't want immigrants to have anything because they just don't think people should be here, and so their solution to that is to make life harder, and we have to make sure that they don't pass anything that would make life harder. So it's tough because they have, right now we just barely have enough votes to help Governor Evers veto things and stop bad bills from happening. But whenever a local community tries to do something that the majority doesn't like, they then pass a law saying local communities can't do that anymore.
I'd like to add to that a little bit too. I mean, even for police safety, we're talking it's easier to identify people if they have an identification, less use of fake names or even identity theft of those that are potentially legal U.S. residents with Spanish names or even U.S. citizens, even if they're not legal residents. And that related back to just like the police force, easier to identify people. You don't have to fingerprint everyone that you're trying to identify, which I'm sure has associated costs with it.
And I know our local police department's in favor of that aspect of it. I don't know where any statewide police organizations are, but I know in the city of Beloit, they would like to have some municipal ID option so that they can at least know who's who, because it would make their job easier and make other people's lives easier too. So if they're not actually involved with anything, they're free to go.
Lo que dijeron sobre tu pregunta, Ana, que sí han pensado en tener no una licencia, porque eso tiene que ser a nivel estatal, pero sí una ID municipal para poder comprar una farmacia o para cosas así que de verdad se necesitan, pero que es difícil cuando tratan de hacer algo así, entonces vienen los que están en contra y se ponen otra legislatura, otra ley de que no, eso no se puede hacer. Entonces es difícil tratar de combatir los que no están de acuerdo. Y dice que ahorita tienen suficiente gente a favor como para no hacernos la vida más difícil, pero que en realidad lo que quieren es limitarnos pues para que nos vayamos, y eso es lo que ellos piensan.
No va a pasar.
Anteriormente nos dieron licencia por 12, 14 años. No les convino al Estado, no nos tenían mejor en todo, o hicimos mal los latinos para que no hayan quitado la licencia anteriormente. Porque yo creo que si todos tenían licencia, nos parábamos por policía, ibas y pagabas, pedías aseguranza, pedías quejar. No tenías que andar corriendo al policía. Yo al policía y me regreso para atrás y me voy por otro lado. Anteriormente, mucha gente venimos a trabajar, tenemos ganas de trabajar, andamos bien, para allá para acá. No les convino a ellos, ¿por qué nos quitaron la licencia?
He's asking why they were taken away back in 2007, why the driver's license were taken away.
Federal law, right? Real ID Act.
The Real ID Act had an impact, but we still have, you can still get a license in Wisconsin that isn't Real ID compliant, and that just wouldn't, let you get on an airplane or something like that, but you would still work to drive. But basically, it was the change in political party from Democrats to Republicans. Democrats passed allowing driver's licenses in 2009, and then Republicans came into power in 2011 and stripped it back out. And we've been trying to get bipartisan support, agreement between Democrats and Republicans to put it back again, basically for the last 12 years, and we haven't been able to get there.
So, básicamente, cuando entró los republicanos fue cuando lo quitaron.
¿Les conviene más que no tengan licencia entonces?
Does it
Eso no se
benefit
sabe.
them to have a license, to take a license away?
¿Cuánto no tiene aseguranza? ¿Cuánto no tiene, o sea, se necesita
Hay mucha
para que
gente.
ellos sepan cuánta popularidad hay aquí?
Was there something done in the government that you know of as research or something saying this is a bad thing for Wisconsin? Or was it more of a, these people want it, but these people don't, and the people that don't want it, so they got a higher number and that's how they won?
I think more of your second part there was more political than it was actually based in science. It was more racial undertones or overtones, depending on who you ask, that decided this was no longer going to be a thing.
No era algo que ellos hicieron, ¿cómo se dice? Research.
No lo analizaron.
No fue algo analizado, fue algo de que cierta gente tiene el número más grande y ellos dijeron que no queremos que lo
Pero si
tengan.
están en su posibilidad de ahorita de apoyarnos, si dan una licencia al Estado, le conviene a los latinos, la economía de Wisconsin, yo pienso que crece un poquito más.
Antes que llegaran ustedes, habían dicho que el proceso para hacerlo y esa parte de la conversación del bill ya se lo quitaron. Ahorita ese bill se va al gobernador, el gobernador tiene la chance de decidir en ciertas cosas, pero ese pedazo de nosotros ya lo quitaron de la conversación.
La semana pasada fue apenas. Ellos ya habían metido esa petición de dar licencias y lo metieron en el presupuesto. Pero la semana pasada cuando estaban en la plática, sacaron eso y sacaron también creo que las becas o pagar el colegio para ciertos jóvenes, sacaron eso del presupuesto. Entonces por este presupuesto ya quedó fuera. Pero la cosa es de que qué más podemos hacer para el próximo año o qué pueden hacer ellos para cambiar, no en presupuesto, pero en otra forma de ley para que den la
Yo creo que el
licencia.
presupuesto que sacaron ellos, el presupuesto, yo creo que hay. Si usted me da una licencia y me cobra $30, la voy a pagar.
Es lo que decía
Es
lo que decía Alejandro, que cada 2 años pueden estar uno pagando la licencia y ellos sacan más. Pero no es...
Pero hay mucha gente, por ejemplo, viene nueva y a mí me da un ticket y me dice, yo me voy en 6 meses para mi pueblo, no les pago el ticket.
Sí.
Al contrario, si me das una licencia, saco una aseguranza, yo voy y regreso y pago.
Uh-huh.
Es dinero que entra al Estado.
Sí,
¿Sí me entiendes?
pero no es por dinero y no es porque no convenga. Sí.
Yo lo pago y pago mi aseguranza y estoy con ellos. Y
Sí.
es dinero que entra.
Sí, pero ellos lo sacaron, pero la realidad sabemos que es por política, no por dinero.
Por ingreso, yo pago mi licencia, pago un ID y el dinero que está entrando al Estado.
Sí.
La otra parte de la conversación fue de que ya que pasó todo eso, sacaron esa parte de la plática, ¿qué es lo que podemos hacer para asegurarnos que para la siguiente vez esa parte no se saque de ahí? Nos dio 2 nombres de gente republicana que tiene aquí el área con ellos también, y la otra parte va a ser de empezar a preguntarle a los republicanos qué es lo que ellos quieren o cómo podemos llegar a un acuerdo con ellos, para que cuando ellos lleguen a esa plática y las decisiones que estén más al lado de nosotros, que no. Hay cosas que ellos pueden hacer y cosas que no, y esta plática se va a tener que seguir con mucha gente republicana, pero tiene que empezar también con gente así como nosotros.
Hemos ido a años anteriores al Capitolio a marchar, hemos ido con Sin Frontera, hemos ido miles de personas que queremos tener una licencia nada más simplemente para andar un poquito más, no tranquilo, sino andar más seguro. Porque no tengo que dar la vuelta. En mi caso, el otro día me ve un policía, se da la vuelta en U, me sigue y me dice, tu placa está vencida. Y digo, ¿seguro? Me dice, sí. Me dice, tengo un ticket. Me voy a sacar el sticker, me dice el DMV, pero te faltan 2 meses para que se te venza. ¿Y qué es lo que me pasó? ¿Y cómo me regreso a ir a reclamarlo? Mi licencia está vencida. Me paró nada más porque era latino y me chocó la placa. No estoy haciendo nada. Y si te checan mi récord, tengo 28 años viviendo aquí, yo tengo un récord. Nunca he tocado casa, nunca me han puesto una respuesta. Pero por eso he sido la vuelta y me dice, está vencido tu ticket. ¿Se me entiende? Mi placa y no estaba vencida. Llego allá y me regreso para atrás.
I've heard that before. Sometimes police officers will give you a ticket because you don't have a driver's license, and then the next time they see you, they know it's you, they know you don't have a driver's license, and they will pull you over because they know. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they know, oh, it's him again.
So no other moving violation, but they just see you and they.
I've heard that before many times.
Ahí traigo mi licencia vieja, traigo mi licencia internacional que la saqué bien y todo, y me digo, no, simplemente un ticket está vencido, no me bajé a checar. Yo sabía que estaba bueno, pero me mandó allá, pero como quiera me dio mi ticket. ¿Cómo voy a cortar la maleta?
He was saying in his example, he got pulled over and got a citation for expired license plates, but they did not expire. He checked with the DMV, and they told him you got 2 months left. And I was telling David, like, what that leads to, there are communities and police departments that might favor this, but what that still brings is some sort of racial profiling regardless. It's like, hey, sorry, you look a little brown over there, and you got a black beard. Do you have a driver's license? I don't know, but I'm gonna find some BS reason to pull you over and see if you have a license. Now you don't. Now here's a ticket. And I'm not saying that's the minority of the police force. Again, we said that there are police departments local to Rock County that support this. But regardless, whether you're in this area or farther up north, once you get past Dane County, it might be a whole different mindset.
My name is Dan Gonzalez, and I'm the pastor of Parroquia San Jose. Parroquia San Jose is an evangelical Lutheran church and Presbyterian church in Deloitte. My English is very, very simple, so I need to speak in Spanish, okay? Creo que acá tenemos que empezar a hablar de lo que a ninguno nos gusta hablar. Hablando de racismo, las cosas hay que nombrarlas porque si no hacemos que no existen. No sé si alguien me ayuda a traducir.
He said, we need to talk about the ugly conversation that no one really wants to talk about, which is racism.
Nuestra comunidad hispano-latina en Beloit y en todo Wisconsin no quiere vivir en un gueto.
Beloit and the whole Hispanic community just doesn't want to live in a ghetto.
Nuestra comunidad aporta importante trabajo para la economía de este estado.
Our community helps a lot with industries and jobs here in the local economy.
Y muchos de quienes no tienen ID, sí tienen el número para un ID para pagar impuestos.
And even though none of us really have an ID, we still have an IT number to pay taxes.
No vivimos en un gueto, aportamos también para la economía de este estado.
We aren't just a ghetto, we're important for this economy.
No queremos privilegios.
We don't want privileges.
Solo queremos todos los derechos para todas las personas.
We just want human rights.
Y eso es justo.
And that's just.
Somos el 30% de las personas que habitamos esta región.
We're 30% of the Beloit population,
Y eso es importante.
and that's important.
Las iglesias, muchas veces tenemos que hacer el trabajo que el Estado no quiere o no puede hacer.
A lot of time, churches have to do the work that local government or the state just doesn't want to do.
Llegamos a donde las políticas públicas no llegan.
And we go where normal politicians just can't go.
Pero por eso también es importante estar en lugares como estos para visibilizar lo que está sucediendo.
That's why it's important to have these conversations, to talk and see the issues that are facing us.
Y lo que está sucediendo en este caso es que hay un sector importante de la población de la zona que está invisibilizada.
And the issue he's talking about is that there's a sector in this community that just is invisible and is not seen.
Gracias por estar aquí. Es una oportunidad para escuchar.
Thank you for being here. It's a good opportunity for us to be heard.
Yeah, and thank you all for being here too, because we talk about the policy, but we don't see the people behind the policy. So your stories, your comments are really important as we're talking about racism thing, I guess we can be a little blunt here. Some of our more conservative colleagues are scared of communities like Beloit because we are so diverse. We have a lot of Spanish speakers in this community, and they don't want to change the way they live things, so they want everybody to conform, and if they can't get people to conform, they want to kick them out or make their life miserable. So that's where we're at right now in Wisconsin. Senator and I are definitely not in that camp. We want to make sure that everybody feels safe and welcomed in this community, but unfortunately we have a lot of people up in Madison who do not feel the same way.
And thank you also. I'm so glad so many of you came out tonight to talk to us, but we're also happy to go into spaces where people are who might not come out even to the library like this. So, whether it's coming to talk to your congregation or anybody else in this room that has a space you want to invite us into, I think we're more than happy to come where people are and make sure that people who don't want to be invisible can be seen by us, can be heard by us. And so, if there's, unfortunately, we don't speak Spanish, but as long as there's somebody who's willing to help us translate, we're happy to.
He's coming next time.
Happy to go anywhere.
Well, we have to speak slowly, like take breaks like he does.
Yes.
Because I already forgot everything you just said.
We'll get better. That's what we have to do this again.
When you need the secretary, you know who is the right person.
You're hired.
I really do believe that if there's a message to be delivered, like we just took turns between all of us without stepping over each other. Like I think that right there in itself shows that we were in here in this room for the right reason. Like if he would have said something that I didn't agree, or whichever which way, I think somebody would have stepped in. Like, no, I think he said it like this. So the message you guys want to deliver to us as a community, I think you guys keep having this type of stuff happen. And thank you, because I see it in a different way, and I do like. It's crazy. A lot of the time we think we're better than each other, and so and so should do it. But in this instance, you just saw people, everybody kind of trying to help each other out with the translation part. So that's beautiful to me.
I have a question. When you mentioned earlier to get support, I mean, you said like the Dairyland Farmers of Wisconsin are in support of this. I don't know if that's just South Central, all over the state. I know that there is a lot of Hispanic people that work in basically the farms. I guess the question would be like, what type of support is needed? Is it CEOs of companies that are in favor of this? I mean, what are you guys looking for?
That would help.
That's, yeah. I think if we're talking about our more conservative colleagues, they want to talk about the dollars and cents of a policy, not the human impact. We care about both, of course, but they're kind of more narrow focused on that. Does it save us money? Is it financially beneficial? So whether we agree with that position or not, I think messaging it to them and explaining why this is positive for the economy is absolutely essential.
And maybe there's census data out there, but I guess I would say, and there is ways for the state to find out. You tap into the Department of Revenue and extrapolate all the tax returns that are done with ITIN numbers, and suddenly know how many undocumented people are in Wisconsin. So I guess with that said, I mean, like, do we have numbers of how many undocumented adults are in Wisconsin? Because that's a way to do the research and be able to put dollars behind it in terms of driver's licenses and all the other things.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get that information.
And then along with that research, is there something available for us to be able to look at and see who is in support of this? Like people have already said, yeah, we're in support of that. Like, is there a list of businesses, organizations that you guys already have?
I don't think we have a formal list. We know who has reached out to us in support, so like the Dairy Business Association, but I can't think of a lot of others. I mean, you said you're an insurance agent. It would be great if the Association of Insurance Agents came to us and said, we see this issue, we support it. It would be great if Chambers of Commerce came to us and said, we see this issue, we support it. And it's one thing to support it, it's another thing to make it a priority. So some groups say we support it, but if we ask what are your top 3 priorities, this wouldn't be 1, 2, or 3. It's maybe it's 12. So we need to actually have them supported in a meaningful way.
Fue mucho, ya se me olvidó.
¿Quién se acuerda? Ajá.
No tienen una lista formal para agencias y organizaciones que podemos ir a trabajar juntos para sacar la licencia, pero I already forgot.
No tienen una lista de los que no están a favor. No es una lista pública que diga una lista de no, ellos no, pero al mismo tiempo hay quienes sí están a favor, pero sus prioridades no es su prioridad número uno. Tienen una lista de lo que ellos creen y lo que ellos piensan que está bien, pero al final es la 12ª las licencias para los inmigrantes. Ese es el problema también.
Relacionado a su tema, también lo que le pregunté es que puedan sacar un reporte con el Departamento de Ingresos de Wisconsin de todas las personas que llenan impuestos con número GEITEN. Teniendo esa información, saben cuántas personas son adultas en este estado, están llenando su declaración de impuestos. Para esa manera tener un número de adultos y saber cuántas personas hay y qué impacto eso puede tener si aprobaran las licencias. Porque, digamos, si es como el estado de Illinois, que se renueva cada 2 años, están cobrando $100 cada 2 años por 50,000 personas, ya saben cuánto hay de dinero.
Tal vez no fuera mucho informativo, no sé algo que voy a decir, pero no sé si se dan cuenta ellos. De Madison para acá, mucha gente vivimos allá, pero tenemos placa de Illinois. Todo ese dinero se está yendo a Illinois porque Illinois me está dando una licencia. Hoy registro un carro y mi placa me salen unos $800,000, se va para Illinois en vez de que se quede en Wisconsin. Si me están cobrando la licencia para todavía y ese dinero se está haciendo. Se puede quedar aquí.
He's explaining a lot of people, South Central Wisconsin, are basically just jumping over to Illinois, getting licenses and vehicles registered over there, so all of that revenue is going to the state of Illinois. And I second that with Minnesota just approved it recently in 2023, the northern border of the state is in actually, I just looked at the map, I think all the states surrounding Wisconsin have licenses now.
Somos un 30% de latinos en Wisconsin.
En Beloit.
De ese 30% de latinos, creo que el 80% pagamos impuestos de Wisconsin, al estado de Wisconsin. ¿Por qué no le dan a todos los latinos que tienen ánima y tienen hombres que tienen un derecho de sacar una licencia para poder, son gente adulta y son responsables? Y le estamos dando ingreso al estado. Si no quieren darle a la gente nueva o algo, pero esa gente que está pagando impuestos por años y también tienen ganas de trabajar, ¿por qué no le dan una licencia con su ID number?
Mentioning you can also associate it with tax returns, so it's like if you're new to the state, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to get a license, but if you've been living in the state and filing your tax returns, that's proof that you're contributing to the state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do have a question. I know when we talked, you mentioned that you were working on the budget. Has it been approved? Is it final? Not yet.
So last week, the way it breaks down is it's basically just the joint finance Republicans. They took everything out of the governor's budget and stripped it. So they're basically starting over from the last budget and trying to build their own. So a lot of the great things in there, whether it's childcare, driver's license, education funding, that's all gone now. They're starting over and they're going to build their own budget.
But some of the things like education and childcare, we think there's a chance they will put back in. But they had a list of 545 things that they stripped out that they specifically said they don't intend to come back to. And unfortunately, the driver's licenses was one of those. So we don't realistically think that's going to make it into the budget. We certainly hope education funding will, but driver's licenses, they pretty much took that vote last Tuesday and said no.
And I'm not
So-
too familiar, but like how often does this get reset? Like, all right, it got taken out. When does it get looked at again to say, all right, it's on the table for now?
The budget's a 2-year budget, so there'd be another budget in 2 years, but we can also try to do a bill outside of the budget. So that's what we'll certainly try to do. Next is introduce a bill that instead of being part of the budget, just does driver's licenses. And so we'll be trying to find one or more Republicans who are willing to introduce that along with Democrats, because you want it to have bipartisan support from the beginning if you want to have a chance of success.
Le preguntaba al representante, porque la plática que tuvimos, yo le pregunté y me explicó sobre cómo funciona el presupuesto. El gobernador tiene su presupuesto de 2 años y lo presenta a los representantes y senadores y ellos lo aprueban. Entonces lo que hicieron los republicanos fue quitar 545 cosas que sacaron del presupuesto y dijeron esos no, y una de esas eran las licencias. Pero dice que una vez que es cada 2 años y posiblemente en 2 años lo puedan volver a meter, pero dice que también se puede pasar una legislatura afuera del presupuesto, que es lo que ellos van a tratar de hacer para lo de las licencias.
So, when you guys put it in, it's something that we as a community gotta start talking about so that we can start getting ready for that kind of support. So when you guys put it in there, that it has something to back it up also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, realistically, that's what you guys would want?
Yeah, there can't be too many people who advocate for this issue.
La otra parte es de que porque ya quitaron esta conversación del bill, ese bill ya se va a ir con el gobernador. Pero ellos pueden meter algo donde ellos pueden hacer esta plática con ellos otra vez. Entonces, al hacer ellos esa plática con tratar de meter los papeleros otra vez, ellos necesitan nuestro esfuerzo para poder ahí darle el apoyo que ellos necesitan también. So, sería de nosotros empezar a contactar a la gente republicana que controla también esta área de nosotros y empezar a preguntar por qué es que ellos por qué no nos están apoyando. So, esa clase de conversación con ellos ya nos daría a nosotros información de cuando empecemos a votar otra vez, por quién votar y por quién no, porque esas son las clases de cosas que se van a empezar a decidir si va a ser fácil o no.
Porque, por ejemplo, nos sacaron del presupuesto inmigrante licencia, pero si le llevas un presupuesto donde le vas a llevar un ingreso grande al Estado, lo puedes meter, porque nos sacaron porque no estaban en el presupuesto de ellos, pero si tú le llevas, que hay 1 millón de latinos aquí, le llevas todo eso y le llevas licencias, saben que $20, $30 te la daban, ¿cuánto de ingreso va para adentro? Pueden meter los papeles, ellos pues, apoyan y gracias por estar aquí. Y meter, en vez de que el presupuesto bajó, no, le llevas un ingreso grande al Estado, se lo presentas a ellos y dices, mira, aquí va a venir esto, vienen aseguranzas para las compañías, puedo agarrar una casa, puedo agarrar cosas, porque lleva un ingreso grande. Ya cuando te dan una licencia y andas una libre, puedes hacer mejores cosas y es un ingreso que va para el Estado. No se está yendo al Estado vecino, porque ahorita se está yendo al Estado vecino, no duele decirlo, pero es la verdad. El Estado vecino es el que se está llevando todo el ingreso, porque ¿qué es lo que hago? Si a mí no me dan una licencia, voy a correr, voy a poner un bill ahí, voy a poner mi carro a placa de aquel lado y el dinero va para allá. Cuando me pueden llevar ellos resultados al gobernador y decir, aquí hay un ingreso grande de los latinos que están aportando.
Pero también que ver, los latinos tienen que demostrar que...
Sí, no tenemos que hacerlo. Yo pienso que yo he ido 2 o 3 marchas con los negocios ahí en el
Capitolio.
Y se llenan. Hemos ido y nunca hemos hecho un desorden ni nada. Hemos ido a pedir que le iban a dar una licencia y hemos ido muchísima gente. O sea, y no hemos hecho ni desorden, hemos ido todo bien, nos han atendido, oficiales sabidos nos han atendido. Y yo creo que si les presentan un buen proyecto que nos van a ayudar y aparte ellos se van a ayudar, bueno, el Estado va a decir
algo que se mencionó también, las marcas, todo eso ayudan, pero también vamos a pensar más grande y lo que estamos mencionando era que necesitamos el apoyo de las empresas donde trabajamos, los granjeros, muchos granjeros que tienen hispanos de trabajadores y ellos están apoyando esto.
Nosotros, yo trabajé por 12 años en Stockholm, en unas fábricas, que la fábrica era de piel, pero era un rancho, y ellos nos daban el día, paraban en las fábricas. Yo trabajé por 2 años y cuando fueron a marcha, dijeron vayan todos y cerraron la fábrica. Y la empresa de Canadá, y el mundo sí nos apoyó y cerró todo y nos fuimos los latinos a apoyar allá. La empresa nos ayudó en ese momento.
Una carta, ¿no?
Que ellos apoyen públicamente, no solamente el hecho de dar el día, pero sino decir yo como el ejecutivo de esta organización apoyo que den licencias para los indocumentados porque me faltan trabajadores, los trabajadores que vienen a trabajar son ellos, nadie más quiere trabajar. Porque eso ya va a tener un impacto más grande cuando se tiene que cerrar una compañía y desemplean a cientos de personas.
Entonces es de ir a los ranchos y hablar con el dueño y decirle, no sé, una carta, tengo tantos trabajadores y todos ellos necesitan...
Que sean negocios, organizaciones...
Las compañías no ayudan tanto, pero los ranchos sí.
En la marcha cuando yo fui, hubo muchos rancheros, había muchos güeros apoyando a los países. Estaban ahí, porque yo he ido a la marcha ahí los loquitos de ir más a Capitol y pues, había muchos rancheros apoyando a los latinos. Y hablaron muchos rancheros que ellos tenían trabajadores latinos y que los buenos no querían ir a trabajar porque huele feo. Y te pagan a $6 la hora. Me dan 14 horas, me dice, gano bien, pero me pagan a $6 la hora. Con $6 no me mantengo, pero si no tengo dónde ir, tengo que estar ahí, batiendo el tiempo todo el día, madrugada, para poder sacar un cheque de 600, 700 dólares. Sí. Y es la realidad, no sé si ustedes no han oído, pero yo he ido a los ranchos, he trabajado con trabajo, voy a la espiga del maíz, o sea, soy de campo, y hemos ido, y la verdad a veces nos pagan un poquito, tenemos que meter 10, 12 horas. Si está lloviendo, o sea, luego tienen que andar ahí para poder sacar, porque si yo voy a pico a Amazon, ¿qué me va a decir? Tú no tienes licencia, no estás legal, no estás de trabajo. ¿Sí me entiendes? ¿Le voy a buscar algún rancho o voy a cobrar a cortar tomate? Porque aquí yo voy al rancho a cortar tomate, fresa, ¿sí me entiendes? Y cuando te pagan, ¿sí me entiendes? Entonces, nos sacrificamos para eso, ¿me entiendes? Sí, nos hemos ido para allá, pero muchas veces somos un cerito ahí, o sea, no nos ven. Y el trabajo sucio lo hacemos los latinos. La mayoría de los latinos que estamos aquí venimos a trabajar. ¿Me entiendes? Y a veces no nos fijamos en el precio porque queremos trabajar. Y el bill acá en casa no nos fija, ni la luz ni nada. ¿Me entiendes? Y muchas veces no nos agradecen porque todavía nos miran así. ¿Me entiendes? Sí, la verdad.
Perdón que los interrumpa. ¿Habrá otro tema del que quieren hablar? Porque pues no tenemos todo el tiempo y no quiero que nadie se quede sin decir alguna otra inquietud aparte de las licencias.
Porque el mensaje ellos los van a llevar al Capitolio y cualquier tema que crean importante.
Que si nos dieran a todos los latinos la licencia para atrás.
Cuando llegué a la reunión, no sabía la magnitud de lo que estamos tocando. A lo mejor para la Cámara de Representantes y el Senado, dentro de las prioridades, este tema es el 12, el 15, el 18. Pero para ese 30% de la población es número 1. O sea, lo que para las instituciones es 12, 15, 18, para nosotros es número 1, es prioridad. Entonces, el escuchar que lo sacaron, duele. O sea, como que duele eso. Es mi opinión.
You're saying like, at least for like the Senate, we don't know where this is in the prioritization. Could be number 12, 20, 100, 545. You didn't say 545, but you mentioned 545. For us, for the 30%, this is the number 1 priority amongst everything else.
Can you guys give like an example of a way to be able to start figuring out like companies, organizations that are for this? And what would be our best bet? How do we start? Contacting people, calling people, emails. Are you okay with this type of bill? Like, what do you guys suggest that we start with?
I mean, I think
Yeah, no, you can start.
I think if you know of employers in the community that are actually supportive of their Latino employees and not just trying to take advantage of them, that might be a place to start. Obviously, if they're trying to take advantage, they might like the system just the way it is. But if there are places that are actually saying we support our employees and we want you to be able to drive to work safely, that seems like a good place to start.
But do you guys have more companies that you guys know that they need more support, they need more support, like more stuff that we can do, not just one company. I mean, I know we're gonna need more than that.
I mean, every company right now is saying they're finding it hard to hire people, and yet we have people who can't legally go to work. So we need, we don't have room for anybody who wants to work to not be working, and yet we're putting up these barriers that make it hard for so many people in our community to work. So at this time, when every company pretty much is saying we want to hire people, they need help, and yet we have policies that are making it hard for people to get to work.
That's what I was going to say.
¿Lo dices en español?
La gente emprendedora, si tiene preguntas, negocios, cosas de registraciones, certificados, los idiomas, algo.
Yo quisiera preguntar algo. ¿Qué tanto porcentaje creen ustedes que tenemos que convencer para que esto sea posible? Para darnos una idea, ¿qué tan arduo sería el trabajo de conseguir las licencias?
Is there a percentage of
The legislator.
representatives, senators that we have to convince so that this can pass?
I mean, you need our assembly speaker who is,
Because maybe now it's only the 20% is in favor, but maybe you know more information about inside how many people we need to convince we needed the license, because we need to figure out how hard we need to work, how many people we need to touch for talking about this problem.
We need a list, so we gotta talk.
Or do you have the list? This is in favor, this is not, or something like this?
You can always reach, if you know folks in different parts of the state,
Mhm.
we can send you, I mean, if you signed in, we can always reach out and send out like a list of who are the legislators, where are they at, if you have friends and family in those parts of the state, have them reach out, make it an issue, because sometimes these things get caught because we're focused on other issues going on right now. I mean, we have a significant local government funding bill coming through, so this might be the thing that gets pushed off to the side for now, but if everybody is talking about it, suddenly it kind of rises to the top, and I think that's one of the takeaways too. This is number one here. I mean, we said open-ended conversation. We've talked for about an hour and a half on IDs alone. So this is clearly the top issue going on in this part of the state. So we need more people to reach out and make it that number one issue all over. So, if you got friends and family, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Wausau, wherever it is. Yes,
Clinton, yeah.
That's a great spot because we have a legislator there that might be able to be moved. We can help navigate that too, but it's just the more people reaching out to their legislator saying that this is their top priority is going to get it to move further too.
Thank you.
So, nos dice que lo mejor que podemos hacer es hablar con nuestros amigos y nuestra familia y que ellos también se comuniquen con sus legisladores, los que a ellos les tocan en sus áreas, para que se hable mucho del tema y para que se haga una prioridad en el Capitolio. Si todos hacemos ruido y empezamos a que se escuche en todo Wisconsin y que los legisladores nos escuchen, entonces le van a dar prioridad.
This is the...
And
Hoy día lo que pasa es que el poder está en los medios. Nosotros colocamos un tema en medio. Eso es lo que puede lograr cierto eco también. Hoy mi prioridad es la ID porque tiene que ver con la identidad, o sea, tiene que ver con el ser considerados personas. En una época de medios, lo que hay que hacer es colocar el tema en medios. Está bien una marcha, pero hoy día mucho del poder está en las redes. Colocamos el tema realmente en donde se puede escuchar, creo que va a tener un impacto mayor. Acá vemos gente de distintos colectivos. No solo somos individuos, representamos personas, representamos grupos. Hay que colocar estos temas en redes, hay que colocarlos en los medios. Hay que hacerle noticia. Si se hace noticia, corre más rápido el mensaje.
Luego, si tenemos el apoyo de ellos, yo creo que se podría hacer algo súper grande. Todos lo hacemos, redes sociales y todo, pero si tenemos el apoyo de ellos, hacemos unos volantes o algo, lo que sea, y si nos apoyan ellos, sería genial. Y hacemos ruido, porque sí sabemos hacer ruido.
So as far as us in this area, is there somewhere that, other than you guys, is there something or somewhere that we can go to or contact to be able to, as a community, we don't have nothing between us that's political. Like, we honestly don't. Like, there's nothing between us that is political. Entre todos nosotros y la comunidad no hay nada político entre nosotros. No hay una organización, no hay nadie político que diga yo quiero ser esa persona para ustedes. So, sí, gente como Ana.
Como Imelda.
Yeah.
Nos aventamos la pelota.
¿Quién entre nosotros es suficiente bueno para tratar a empezar a luchar para estas clases de asientos también. La conversación tiene que ser algo que no nomás tengamos ahorita y se quede aquí, lo tenemos que llevar con nosotros. So, si todos ustedes están en línea con tener esta plática sin ellos, esa también sería otra manera de empezar entre nosotros. Ellos nos necesitan a nosotros, pero nosotros también los necesitamos a ellos. Pero ellos no son de aquí, trabajan allá, pero al final del día no son de nosotros. So, ellos se van y luego, ¿qué? ¿Dónde nos quedamos nosotros? So, en el limbo. So, esa es otra plática entre nosotros. ¿Quién es que se quiere poner o cómo vamos a poder tener esta conversación entre nosotros cuando gente como ellos no están aquí?
Hay que organizarnos ahorita para contactar los otros representantes republicanos de aquí del área, para invitarlos a que vengan como ellos y tener esta misma plática, pero con ellos. Sí, pero ellos ya los tenemos, pero necesitamos a los republicanos también.
So we're talking about getting together with, I didn't get her last name, but Ellen I
Ellen
think I've
Schutt.
seen her, yes, and the other senator
Steve
from,
Knotts.
We'll be pretty honest, it's unlikely he'll even want to talk to
Yeah.
anybody,
So,
but
but even with you saying that, if they don't want to have that conversation with us, that already is telling us that those are not the people that we want to vote for.
Right. Yeah.
So it turns into a whole other conversation too, because now we're going to start getting into the voting, who's eligible to vote. How can we target the people that are eligible to vote to be able to make them see that you got to vote this way if you want that. If you want something else, then that's your other vote. But let them choose. At least know that the freedom is there for them to be able to vote. That's a choice.
Steve Knotts represents Delavan, and there's a pretty robust Latino population in Delavan.
Yeah.
So I would just keep that in mind too, as he's ignoring all of it.
And if you know people in Milton or Monroe, those have different legislators that we need to reach out to.
Yeah, but we can contact these people and invite them, but they say no, doesn't matter. We can pass the votes in the community and say, we tried talking with these people, we tried to talk about our problem, and they don't want to listen. And doesn't matter, they don't want to talk, but we can talk about these people, and we can talk about yours. You listen, maybe you can do too much, but you are listening, right?
Well, and I think too, there's no limit of how annoying you can be to somebody if you keep pestering them and everybody's saying, please support a bill that gives license undocumented immigrants. Like, eventually, they're going to have to say something. Like you can't, if you're getting 20 emails about this one topic, you can't just let that sit. And if they do, then it's incredibly noticeable.
Yeah, thanks.
yo creo que también es bien importante que vayamos a nuestras casas y eduquemos a nuestros hijos sobre el tema. Muchas veces que mis papás son ilegales y no les decimos a los niños para que no vayan y digan, pero es importante educarlos y que sepan que la vida no es color de rosa y tal vez ellos, porque sí nacieron aquí, pueden hablar más libremente y pues luchar como nosotros para que algo suceda.
Sí, yo quiero decir que creo que es bien importante que hablen con sus hijos y familias, que los hijos tienen papeles, ellos pueden votar, ellos pueden correr para la oficina contra los republicanos para que ellos tengan su posición de poder y ellos ahí en el capital de Madison pueden hacer algo. Es importante decirle a los hijos que pueden hacer algo, que hagan algo.
Any way we can be helpful too. If you want to reach out to us via email, because I know some of you, we might have a language barrier, but if you send something in Spanish to us in email, we can figure out how to translate that. But we want to be helpful, so don't think of this as that one conversation we had and we never talked again. Reach out to us. We want to be helpful. Anything to organize pushing this issue, you can always email us or reach out to us or somebody who is providing translation.
Nos informan que ellos quieren seguir trabajando con nosotros y seguir con esta conversación y permitir que hablemos con los republicanos para tratar de hacer llevar nuestra voz y que ellos también entiendan la necesidad de las licencias.
It's a public record, so we have to give that to you.
Dicen que por favor agarren una tarjeta, que ustedes pueden mandarles un email, aunque sea en español, y ellos buscan quién pueda traducirles. Pero que por favor que no termine aquí la conversación, que ellos quieren ayudar. Y si ponen su
La están llenando ya.
ajá, si la quieren llenar también para que nosotros tengamos una copia y podemos contactarnos y juntarnos otra vez para seguir el tema nosotros, aunque sea sin ellos.
Y hay muchas organizaciones que ahorita
Dame
hoy
una
están
hojita de
haciendo
abajo
charlas,
para-
conversaciones en cada organización, o maybe sería una buena oportunidad para estas organizaciones que tuvieran esta clase de plática y les da ojos a ellos como organización, pero también nos da las oportunidades de la voz, Wisconsin conmigo, tienen también que ver ahorita lo que hacen conversaciones de temas. Hispanos Unidos Rompiendo Fronteras es una organización comunitaria. So, hay diferente gente ahorita en el parque que tiene algo donde podemos empezar a hacer algo juntos con ellos. Las iglesias.
Y sí puedo preguntar qué hace Rompiendo Fronteras o cómo me puedo comunicar con ellos para...
Es una organización donde tiene dos lados. El primer lado es de conservar y promover la cultura de nosotros, y el otro lado es de hacer cosas donde le estamos dando a la comunidad oportunidades. Las oportunidades a la comunidad vienen en cosas como buscar trabajo, buscar vivienda, proveer diferentes recursos para si necesita uno comida, ropa, asistencia con algo. Ese es el otro lado de la organización.
Well, I just want to say thank you again. We don't want to respect everybody's time, so we've been here a little over, but it was a great conversation. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Agradecen que hayan
Thank you
estado
all so
ustedes
much,
presentes y
for
que hayan
coming, and,
manifestado sus
We'll work
necesidades.
together to send an email to everyone who was here, and we'll try to do it
Van a
both
tratar de
English and
trabajar
Spanish,
juntos
just to
y enviarnos
summarize some of the
emails
information that
para
we talked about
informarnos
tonight.
acerca de los cambios y con quienes podemos trabajar.
Thank you so much.
Les
Muchas
agradecemos.
gracias por estar aquí, pero espero que cuando tenga ya en el Senado no se olviden de nosotros.
Dile, Imelda.
Well, thank you so much for coming, but when you're up in Washington, D.C., don't forget about us.
And we don't go to Washington, we just go to Madison,
Yes.
so we're never that far away.
Muchas gracias, amigos. Seguiremos comunicando todas las novedades acerca de los cambios en la política.
Thank you so much.